I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the poem that we went through earlier. Now, this is primarily for those of you who requested me to do a quick video to basically grasp most of the things that the poet William Wordsworth is trying to talk about in his poem composed upon Westminster Bridge. Now, there is quite a bit of information available on the internet if you want to look at the critical analysis of the poem. But what I thought I'll do is trying to give you an overview, more or less, that captures our imagination around what the poet is really trying to say. And most of what he tries to talk about is a glimpse of an experience that he has had, and it looks quite evident from the way in which the poem has been written um, that he has looked at this earlier, or he has had this experience earlier, and it's quite possible that he finished writing the poem, and the day that he mentions, on the year that he mentions, is probably the time when he finished writing it. It's quite possible that such experiences would have lasted long ago, and one takes a while to capture all that one goes through in one's imagination. Now, when you try and understand perspectives of poets like William Wordsworth. For example, if you take the first line, he says, Earth has not anything to show more fair. He is trying to bring to our knowledge his perception of the earth that he understands through his own vision, through an understanding of the formation that he has had since childhood. Because it so happens that there are many events that we possibly encounter, feel, sense, sometimes get captivated by or captivated with, but perhaps that doesn't linger much in our imagination, and it becomes hard for us to know, how to take that thought or how to take that experience forward, though it has given us the ability to either imagine or feel or sense or experience something great and vivid, you know. So that's why he begins this poem in a certain manner, and he says, "Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty." Now, there are many people in your life whom you will meet who absolutely don't know how to admire small things, and what is it that he's admiring? You watch the poem as we go by this poem, these lines that he writes. It's not that he's admiring something of extravagant beauty, but he takes the simple things in life, things that he can observe, things that perhaps give him the ability to know how to view life, and he makes something extraordinary out of it. And that's a lesson that is for us to realize that not everything that we're going to be seeing in this life is going to be extraordinarily beautiful, but we can take the simple things that we experience and turn it into something astounding. That's where our perceptions really matter. Now, when you talk about the beauty of the morning, right, depending on the city that you live or the area that you live, it's not common that when we move out of our houses, most of our houses are in localities where you can't even see the sunrise per se. Forget about ships and towers and domes and theaters and temples that he is talking about, and fields opening onto the sky that he is trying to talk about. Most often, the kind of situations that we face in life is such that we move out of our house, and the only thing that we can see is perhaps dirt, or perhaps some street dogs walking by, or perhaps the busy traffic early in the morning, or perhaps noise. And living in India, especially the city that we all belong to, it so happens that we encounter not many things that one can appreciate. This is exactly what the poem is trying to say. It talks to our heart. It helps us understand that irrespective of where we are, there is certainly uh, an opportunity for us to look up into the sky and gaze into the sky, as it were, open our perceptions, the door of our soul to the sky, to be able to uh, appreciate the height and the depth and the width of the sky, if possible. Because end of the day, life cannot be experienced if you tilt towards the ground. Think about this for a while. Uh, do you know that it's very difficult for almost all human beings? I think I did a demo of this in class. It's very difficult for almost all human beings to try and look at the ground below and try and tilt one eye towards the sky. Either you look at the ground or you look at the sky. You can't do both together at the same time, which means that you can't, with one eye, look at the ground and with another eye look at the sky. You just can't do these things. So when we say, when we view life as being bright, or when we view life as being glittering, and we say things like smokeless air, it's not that smoke is going to be absent in the atmosphere. Obviously, the time when William Wordsworth was talking about the Westminster Bridge, obviously that's more than a couple of hundred years old. So yes, we do expect at his time to see a sky which is bright and glittering and there's no smoke. But what if there is smoke, right? What if there is no sunlight? What if you cannot perceive anything but a dark sky? The poet is still trying to invite us uh, to be able to look at probably a window into the sky, into which we could build our imagination into something so steep, so much so that um, our ability to see positivism in any situation does not go away, irrespective of the kind of circumstance or difficulty that we are facing in life. Uh, Dear students, irrespective of how old you are today, and irrespective of how old you'll become someday, perhaps some of you will turn to be teachers, some of you will become doctors or professors. What's most important is that when you see a valley that you're going through, you need to learn that it lasts just temporarily. And if it's a rock that you got to climb, you got to assume that you will put your step on the rock and you will make sure that you climb it and that you will make sure that your foot goes down the mountain as well. Which means, irrespective of the situation that you face, there ought to be an inner calm which is so deep that it appears as though uh, situations are not guiding you, but it appears as though you have built so much of self awareness within yourself that you guide all situations. You always have a choice. Even if you're a boat, even if your life is like a boat in the midst of turbulent water, you still have a choice. Am I going to focus my imagination on the turbulence of the waters? Or should I focus my imagination on making sure that I have a good rocking experience in the water? Where is your imagination going to go? That's central to how your perception of your life is going to be in the future. You know, some people say, when they go through difficulty, they ask questions like, "Where is God really?" And I answer these questions very simply. I said, God is pretty much in your own situation at the moment. So it's not so the world is never going to be calm. Is another thing this poet is trying to say. The world is never going to be calm. If you want to observe the world calmly, you got to be calm inside. If you're going to see turbulence on the outside, it's because you're turbulent inside. If you're going to see just tsunamis in your life coming and going as and when they come and appear, that's because there is a tsunami within you. So, calmness of the ocean, which is what he's trying to describe here, a calm so deep, when he says that, he pretty much in his imagination tries to evidently teach us that the deeper we go into the ocean, the more calm the ocean really becomes. Because on the top of the ocean, pretty much you see waves which are turbulent, you see a lot of motion, but when you go down into the ocean, you see calmness. You see what we call a stillness. Stillness is not the absence of activity. Stillness is just being conscious of every single moment. So, my dear students, when we analyze this poem in great detail, it teaches us lessons for our lives. Lessons pretty much that uh, that are timeless. Let's take an example, right? If you walk into the waters of a river at any given point in time, and then you come out of the water, and then you put your feet again inside the waters of the river, never is your foot going to touch the same water that you touched before. You know what I mean? That's exactly what he's trying to say when he says, the river glideth at his own sweet will. That's what he means. Why is he saying so? Because life is such that it ought to be experienced. Life cannot be monotonous. Life has to be lived. You got to have an adventurous view of life, an excited view of life. Life full of exuberance is how you got to live. If you intend to experience life the same way that William Wordsworth is trying to describe it, you know, and then he compares more or less the extent to which we have reduced our lives to be looking like these rooms and houses which appear asleep. Saturday morning when I went for a ride early morning, I noticed that most houses in Bangalore are asleep. People have not even woken up even at um, 7:30 in the morning today. That's pretty much how most people live their lives. They are hardly aware of the bliss that we are called to live in this life. My dear students, you can never achieve your purpose in this life without your heart awakening to that inner stillness that you're called to live by. And that is what makes us mighty. We become mighty not because of the mighty things we do. We become mighty because we know how to give meaning to every simple action of ours. you know and when the world is moving at a so-called busy pace, it's necessary for us to stop, to think, to pay attention to things that don't move. you know and the more still you are, the better your ability to grasp your purpose will become. I end with just this one statement because I don't want to take uh, too much of time in trying to explain one poem, but I thought I'll do this small initiative. Perhaps if you like it, we can continue doing this going forward. All I intend to say is that life is like the Westminster Bridge. Life is like any bridge that you see. What is it that you want to perceive? Do you want to perceive lands that are connected between bridges? Are you going to be the bridge that connects people? Or do you want to distance yourself by being that empty space into which nobody wants to walk into? Do you really want to be like that house that is asleep, that hardly awakens to the early morning dew, a heart that never awakens to a life that can be experienced? Our experience of life is based on how good we are intrinsically, not how good we are extrinsically. With this, I'll end my short narration of what the poem composed upon Westminster Bridge really means to me. I wish you a good day ahead of you.